Hello, it's the 30th of November. I'm Paul Anderson-Walsh, and this is Renew Every Morning. Well, as I said to you yesterday, we're in the final throes of our teaching through my book, Safe and Sound, and I hope it's been an enjoyable journey for you. If you've missed anything, just go back. They're all on YouTube. You can pick them all up. But today we're going to sort of close this up with maybe, and I hope you won't mind, this is kind of a bit more of a teachy end, because I want to talk about something not technical, but it just needs to be set out in a solid way, to ask a couple of questions. And the big question is this. It's who is responsible for our salvation? Now that, may I tell you, this one crucial diagnostic question tells us whether or not we're able to graduate from the little children phase. This is the question. When you are able to answer this in a particular way, who is responsible for our salvation, you'll either be kind of free to move on, or you'll need to sit with awareness for a little while longer. Because our response to this question will reveal a great deal, because it will reveal to us who and fundamentally in what we are trusting for our salvation. Now, I want to emphasize, this language of salvation feels a bit old to me, so I'm going to call it awareness, consciousness, fullness. I don't mind really how we want to say it, but let's move the conversation on from a kind of a heaven to win and a hell to lose, that. Let's move it away from that, because it's bigger than that. Salvation is a much bigger concept than getting you out of hell and into heaven. It's about getting heaven down here on the earth and in you. So what I want to say then is that when I speak about salvation, I mean it in the 100% sense. I'm saved, I'm being saved, and I will be saved, right? In the book of Isaiah, the Lord set out a very counterintuitive way of grace, and the prophet Isaiah gave us man's natural response. This is Isaiah 30, verse 15. For thus says the Lord, the Holy One of Israel. Listen to these words. In returning and rest you shall be saved. In quietness and in trust shall be your strength. But you were unwilling, and you said no. Now, Israel's rebelliousness had made her choose not to hear the Lord's instruction. And much like today, to tell her seers not to see, and had instructed her prophets not to prophesy what was right. And with Israel turning aside from the path while trusting in herself, the prophet Isaiah really prescriptively sets out the only way and the restorative way of grace. This is Isaiah 30, verse 15. Excuse me. In returning, that is about in retirement or withdrawal from our works, the ceasing from our labour, and in rest, in perfect stillness, even stillness that is kind of almost like a death, shall you be saved. Now, it is the Sabbath rest which David urges us to strive for. Now that's a strange thing. In Hebrews 4, it's such a strange bit of language. But he urges us to strive to enter into that which can only be experienced by pilgrims who rested from their works as God did from his. Hebrews 4, 7 through 10. The prophet Isaiah said that this salvation, this liberation and deliverance was accomplished by the retirement from works and dying to self-effort. It's in quietness, meaning tranquility, meaning to be utterly disturbed, and in trust that we shall find our might and our valor to execute the mighty deeds of God. That feels counterintuitive, doesn't it? Yet, in an act of kind of like eccentric defiance, Israel's emphatic response was, no, we're not doing that. That is not how we're going to live the spiritual life. We will not retire, will not rest, will not be quiet, will not place our confidence in God. We will get it done. So instead, Israel proposes this most bizarre alternative strategy. Rather than dressing herself in the riches of grace, she chooses to don the rags of religion. Why would you do that? Israel, we will flee upon horses. Okay, then you will flee away. We will ride on swift steeds. Okay, then your pursuers shall be swifter. Isaiah 30 verse 17, 1,000 shall flee at the threat of one. At the threat of 5 you shall flee, till you are like a flagstaff on the top of a mountain, like a signal on a hill. Now, in the prophet's allusion, Israel's obstinacy had left her desolate like that flagstaff on the top of a mountain. Defeated, for sure, deflated. And therein lies the greatest lesson in the way of grace. Not only did the Lord oversee Israel's defeat, he watched and he waited patiently in order that he could show her mercy. Listen to this 18th verse. This is exquisite. Okay, you want to do all this religious stuff? All right, knock yourself out. Therefore the Lord waits to be gracious to you. Therefore he exalts himself to show mercy to you. For the Lord is a God of justice, good judgment, full of grace. Blessed are those who wait for him. See that? He waits to be gracious for you. Of all the lessons, and I've had so many lessons in grace in the last 35 odd years, of all the grace lessons I've ever had to come to terms with, this one is one of the most difficult. I was so wedded to self-effort, so invested in self-authentication, that it was necessary for him to allow me to be swallowed up with the pain of trying to make my life work apart from him before I would turn to him. He waited to be gracious to me. I tell you what, as a parent, I know there are moments in raising children where we all wish we could call for harsh discipline. And incidentally, don't think that life of grace means that we're exempted from discipline. On the contrary, just as the law and punishment go together, so grace and discipline are synonymous, I think. But although punishment and discipline, when administered here, both feel the same, they're not. You see, because the law is punitive, while all the actions of grace are restorative. They only ever have one aim in mind. Never retribution, always restoration. Always. And in any event, this discipline is often more painful than the administrator of the punishment than the one who's receiving it. But I suspect many times there, over the years, when it's heard that something's grieved the heart of God to have to discipline me, I think maybe, I shall say it, it's true, isn't it? I know that as a parent, it grieves me to discipline my children. But actually, the fact of the matter was that the gain, i.e. the obedience to faith, was worth the pain. And the blunt and frank truth is that the principal drivers of change are pain and remedy. That's just the fact of it. And the reason why people change is what they do is much less due to them being given a good analysis which shifts their thinking. That's not what happens. They're shown a truth that influences their feelings. And this is an important point, you see, because people change when they hurt enough that they're willing to change, when they learn enough they want to, and when they're affirmed enough they're empowered to. And that's an important reality, I think. So the prophet Isaiah, let's see what it says. Blessed are those who wait for him. You see, it's an axiom which the prophet will reiterate in this really vivid imagery over chapter 40. There he depicts the youths fainting and growing weary and falling from self-effort, young men falling exhausted, all in contrast to those who wait upon the Lord, exchanging their strengths for God, and in doing so mounting up with wings like eagles. They run and they don't grow weary, they walk and they do not faint. And this prospect is open to all who simply allow themselves to be mastered by the way of grace and cease from their labours. The only desire of the Lord is to bless you. That's all. It's all he wants to do. He wants to bless. But he blesses on his own terms. And herein lies the conundrum. What he calls a blessing, we often think of as a curse, and vice versa. Typically, we'll go to him with our wants, and invariably, he only meets our needs. And at first, this is really perplexing because we often want what we don't need, and we often need what we don't want. But that's the way. Be that as it may, As we grow spiritually, our needs and our wants become integrated. Thus, there must be a kind of aligning of our hearts and our minds, ours with His. And that alignment invariably involves encouraging us to stop relying on ourselves, a goal which He is in ruthless pursuit of. However, the divine consolation is this: for a people shall dwell in Zion, in Jerusalem, and you shall weep no more. He shall surely be gracious to you. Listen to this. At the sound of your cry, as soon as He hears it, He answers you. Isn't that beautiful? It's not the anguish lament of the apostle, wretched man that I am, who will deliver me. Isn't that what he's saying, essentially? When Paul is coming to that kind of ego crisis point where he suddenly realizes, oh my God, what have I done? What have I done? What have I done? Isn't that not the same kind of moment for him? Though the Lord gives you the bread of adversity and the water of affliction, yet your teacher will not hide himself any more, but your eyes shall see your teacher, and your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. And when you turn to the right or to the left, it's gorgeous. Then you will defile your carved idols, overlaid with silver and gold-plated images. You will scatter them as unclean things, and you'll say to them, be gone. All right, well, look, we have to reach that point, right? We must end our love affair with self-effort. So here's the question for you to ponder. Is salvation a work of God for man, a work of man for God, or a joint venture? Look, salvation is the work of God, not me. Salvation is all of God and none of me. Me, not God. All of God, rather all of me and none of God. Do you see what I'm saying? So if I'm asking you to say to yourself, how do you see this salvation message? Is it God, not me? So therefore, whatever this salvation thing is to you, it's all of God and none of me. Do you think it's me, not God? So it's all of me and none of God, and he marks the homework. Or do you think it's kind of God and me, some of me and some of God? What do you think? And there's a great deal at stake in our answer, right? A great deal at stake. And I'm firmly of the view that the character of God, i.e. love, and the nature of salvation, the free gift of grace, insist that salvation is an absurd, extravagant display of God's love. It's all of God and none of man. And once that gift is given, it can never, ever, ever be taken away. The arithmetic of God is so simple. Jesus Christ plus nothing equals everything. If you try and add to the work of Christ, you reduce and diminish the work of Christ. All right. Until tomorrow, well, we've got a couple of tidying up bits to do. I want to think a little bit about cast iron assurance, because I know assurance is a big theme for people. How do we go through the business of growing gracefully? And the other question that people always ask me is, well, how do we do this stuff then? So we'll tidy those bits up, and then that will be the book finished, I think. And what an absolute honour it's been to be with you. So thank you so much, and I'll see you tomorrow.